Fresh off his vacation, former President Barack Obama is now planning to get paid very handsomely for giving speeches. Speeches to Wall Street. Well, that's very interesting. You would think the Democrats at this point, after the crushing defeat, the embarrassing loss of Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump, would avoid going and speaking to Wall Street firms. You would think that would be something that they would be smart enough to avoid. Ooh, I don't know, that looks bad. We really don't want to be known as the party of Wall Street. Oh, well, never mind. I'm going to go and speak for a lot of money. Now, again, the speeches that I referenced were the Goldman Sachs speeches that Hillary Clinton gave for $250,000 a piece. Now, surely, this cannot be the same, right? As I mentioned, nobody can be that dense, right? To think, come on, man, like, we're not going to do the same mistake as Clinton. Because Clinton, again, gave these $250,000 speeches to Goldman Sachs, and she got raked over the coals by both Donald Trump and progressives. So, how much is he actually going to make from this speech? President Obama is set to make $400,000 in his first speech since leaving office. A speech to Wall Street firm Cantor Fitzgerald, scheduled to take place in September. I'm telling you, man, they're not learning a damn thing. Now, Aaron Blake, he wrote a great piece in the Washington Post, of all places. Now he reported this, and he's like, wait a minute, this is a bad idea. And he actually stated some of the most obvious reasons why doing these speeches is a terrible idea, and that he should immediately cancel these. Okay. Now, number one, he points out, is the precedent. It looks bad, okay? Now, he writes, George W. Bush and Bill Clinton did this too, as have Hillary Clinton, as we pointed out, Ben Bernanke and Alan Greenspan. And the more that Wall Street firms give out-of-office presidents and big-name politicians these paydays, the more they become the norm. Other presidents will know that such payments are on the table, and it risks coloring their decisions with regard to Wall Street and special interests. You don't say. Now, this is one of the reasons Hillary Clinton this is the reason progressives went after Hillary Clinton so hard. All right, we went after her with a lead pipe and a blowtorch. We were not kind, okay, especially when it came to these speeches, because she got a lot of this money from Wall Street doing these speeches, and we kind of figured that, hey, when you get a lot of money from certain places to run your campaigns, or just personal, this is not campaign money, this went right into her pocket. Well, you're going to go and represent those companies. You're going to be sympathetic to their point of view. Hey, this company gave me money, I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to be more sympathetic to what they have to say. Okay. Again, that seems to be a problem. Now, Donald Trump was smart enough to exploit this. Okay. Now, of course, Trump, we know, con man, who meant none of his anti-Wall Street sentiment. But this was a layup that even an idiot like Donald Trump knew how to exploit. Okay. Because it happens to be true. And in the case of Obama, you could even make an argument that this is happening retroactively. And Blake makes that argument. Quote, whether it's fair or not, it's not difficult to look at Wall Street paying $400,000 to Obama as a reward for the lack of prosecutions for anyone involved in the financial crisis. In that way, it's tough on both precedent and Obama's presidency. Now, that's actually a super relevant point. That's a great, great point. Whether or not it's actually true or fair, not really going to matter. See, what this is about is that it's about the optics. It's about the perception. And a lot of progressives, such as myself, have been increasingly angry that President Obama had refused to punish any of the bankers for crashing the economy in 2008. Especially after all that we found out. Instead, they got golden parachutes, they got their companies bailed out by the taxpayer, and these banks continued to get even more powerful under Barack Obama. Because, look, hey, man, I only look backwards. Or I'm sorry, I only look forward, not backwards. I don't look backwards, I look forwards. Come on. Well, how very convenient of you for your banker friends that gave him millions of dollars during the 2008 election. Again, Goldman Sachs and some of these banks, Citigroup, were Obama's biggest donors during his first campaign. Again, incredibly convenient. Now, Blake also writes, it's not as though the idea of holding office and then benefiting from it at a later date is a completely novel one. The Trump administration, the Obama administration, and Congress have all instituted lobbying bans on their employees, limiting their ability to lobby government after leaving government, usually for years. These bans aren't written because those aides may one day rejoin government and be influenced by having made wealthy by certain interests. They're written because it is so normal for former aides to cash in afterwards and basically use their government jobs for a future payday on behalf of well-heeled special interests. The prospects of future wealth became a given. So this is, again, some of you watching are like, yeah, so we knew this was happening, this is normal. But doesn't anybody think that that's a problem? The fact that it's normal shows that how big of a problem it actually is. It should set off alarm bells in everybody who's watching, who's listening. Even the fact that you're like, yeah, what's the big deal? This is normal. Oh, wait, this is bad and it's normal. Oh, look at what the system has set up. It's a perverse incentive. Go into politics, go into public service, and get rich. Well, public service isn't supposed to be a get-rich-quick scheme. But a lot of people, thanks to our rules, our campaign laws, and the fact that people can go through that revolving door, well, it has made it into this. And, of course, that's a disaster. And this article is a complete acknowledgement of that massive corruption that we all know is there and that we've always known is there, but pointing it out. Now, those lobbying bans, sadly, don't do a lot to discourage that corruption, though it is a small effort. Now, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Can you think of somebody in office right now, maybe a senator, maybe a congressman, governor, president of the United States even, who's only in it to get a payday once they're out of office? Just saying. Look, so let's get back to the optics here for a minute. Now, Blake writes, the whole thing comes at a somewhat inauspicious time for the Democratic Party. No kidding. Just as Democrats' true identity is in flux, as Sanders' anti-Wall Street message seems to be ascendant, and as President Trump at times co-opted that message in the 2016 election, that brand of populism clearly has very broad appeal. And now Democrats are being put in the position of deciding whether their former president should take $400,000 from Wall Street for a speech, at the least at risk suggesting the party's anti-Wall Street posture is in some cases just that. Posturing. You don't say. Really? Wait, you mean the Democrats could actually be lying about opposition to Wall Street? Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. I never would have guessed that the Democrats would lie in order to keep getting corporate money and votes. I mean, come on. No. We know from experience that the Democratic Party en masse has lined up behind Wall Street interests. We know that. Not all of them, of course. We have some great progressives, Sanders, Warren, Gabbard, Turner, and others. But look, the corporate Democrats, I can see them now defending Obama to the hilt for taking this corporate money, even though it looks incredibly bad. But that's, of course, if they were to acknowledge that this was a bad thing to do, that, hey, well, President Obama, you should not go and take that money from this bank to do a speech. Well, they would have to admit that it was wrong for Hillary Clinton to do. And a lot of corporate Democrats can't get behind that. They can't wrap their head around it like, ugh, there's only so much I can pretzel myself to defend Hillary Clinton. But I'm going to try anyway. So I can't admit that what Obama was doing was wrong, even if most of the country thinks that it was wrong and that it is corruption. They can't do that because then they would actually have to criticize Hillary Clinton as well. So And that's the thing. This is a thing that has to stop with the Democratic Party. Now, if they ever want to win back regular people, they've got to stop cozying up to Wall Street and the banks. They have to. Especially somebody who talked about the corrupting influence of money in our political system. Now, I'm going to read you some of Barack Obama's own words on the subject from his 2006 book, The Audacity of Hope. Quote, "I know that as a consequence of my fundraising, I became more like the wealthy donors I met, in the very particular sense that I spent more and more of my time above the fray, outside the world of immediate hunger, disappointment, fear, irrationality, and frequent hardship of the other 99% of the population. That is, the people I'd enter public service or public life to serve. And in one fashion or another, I suspect this is true for every senator. The longer you are a senator, the narrower the scope of your interactions. You may fight it with town hall meetings and listening tours and stops by the old neighborhood, but your schedule dictates that you move in a different orbit from most of the people you represent." It's funny because Bernie Sanders seems to have not affected him. He still seems to be very much in touch with his constituents, with regular people. Just saying. Now, he continues, as perhaps as the next race approaches, a voice within you tells that you don't want to have to go through all the misery of raising all that money in small increments all over again. You realize that you no longer have the cachet you did as the upstart, the fresh face. You haven't changed Washington, and you've made a lot of people unhappy with difficult votes. The path of least resistance, of fundraisers organized by the special interests, the corporate PACs, and the top lobbying shops, starts to look awfully tempting. And if the opinions of these insiders don't quite jibe with those you once held, you will learn to rationalize the changes as a matter of realism, of compromise, of learning the ropes. So President Obama knew this. Senator Obama knew this. He talked about this. Now, this isn't necessarily an indictment against President Obama himself, but it's a good example of how the system gets to people, how the system changes people. Again, he became that person that rationalized the changes wanted by his donors. Remember, if your policy priorities and those positions that you once held are not the same as the donors, you have to rationalize when you're sending, because you have to raise money from them. You have to dial for dollars. Well, man, I guess I can, look, I need the money. I want to do good. There's stuff that I have done good. I think I can do more good, but I got to get that money. So I'll bend on this position here. I'll be a little bit more friendly towards the corporations. I'll bend a little bit on workers' rights, just because the greater good. The greater good. Well, that's unfortunately what the system of money and politics corrupting our system makes you do. And that's, again, this is not necessarily Obama's fault. I'm not saying he's a bad person. And I'm not saying, I even said Hillary Clinton. She was somebody who also had to maneuver in this system, and she got really good at it, and she took advantage of that system to great effect, raising billions of dollars. Didn't do her a damn good, but she got good at using that system. Because you kind of have to. In the system the way that it's set up. It is a system that is corrupt, that spreads corruption like a seed. Now, you can't change that by replacing people. You could replace Obama, you would get somebody that would have to maneuver with the same type of system, that would have to make the same kind of compromises in order to get donor money. One of the only people that actually didn't do that was Bernie Sanders and a couple of other really good progressives that said, no, we're not going to take that corporate money because we know what happens. We know that you end up having to compromise your positions, not in order to get bipartisanship, but in order to get that money, in order to get the campaign contributions. That's the problem here. That's the problem. You can't just remove the symptom and expect the whole thing to be fixed. What you have to do is you have to target the disease. Money is the disease. The money in politics is killing democracy. It is making people have to make these decisions. And if you remove that money, then you'll actually get people who want to do good that are able to do good. And that's the whole point. So go after the money in politics. You have to go after the corruption that is endemic in that and defeat it. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.